Chapter 11 The Strongest Clan in Konoha. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hong stepped between them, breaking the silence. Dad, is dinner ready? Hong snapped out of his thoughts. Yeah, it's all set. It's in the kitchen. Go grab it. Hong headed to the kitchen. Hong turned to Che and gestured for him to sit. Make yourself at home, Che. You're all alone, so come over for dinner every night. Try my cooking, and liven this place up a bit. Che started to politely decline, but Hong seemed pretty insistent, leaving Che no room to refuse. Thank you, uncle. Hong smiled, pleased. You and Hong are about the same age. She's not even a year older. You two can keep each other company, help each other study and train. Che looked at Hong's lean, serious face, now softened with warmth. He clearly doted on his daughter. Che nodded to appease him. Hong came back carrying a stack of plates loaded with food. Che immediately jumped up to help, and together they filled the table. Hong smiled, satisfied. He picked up chopsticks and handed them to the two of them. The three of them sat down and enjoyed the feast. While they ate, Hong told Hong what he had told Che earlier, about having dinner together and helping each other out. Hong's reaction was much stronger than Che's calm one. Even the way she picked up food became a little awkward. Still, she didn't object. She just kept telling herself that he was a kid brother, pushing aside any romantic thoughts. After all, her father's words really made it sound like he'd found her a childhood sweetheart. After dinner, Che insisted on helping with the dishes before heading out. It was already dark when Che left the Yuhihi house. Thankfully, Che had a good memory and had already memorized the route from the Yuhihi family to the Uchiha compound. Che was about to head straight home when a group of familiar faces stopped him. It was Uchiha Tonghua and Uchiha Tiehua, two brothers he didn't really know. Che figured Tonghua was looking for trouble again, but instead, Tonghua threw himself at Che as soon as he saw him. Che! You gotta help us. The Uchiha are getting pushed around. Tonghua clung to Che's leg, sobbing. It was a complete turnaround from how he'd acted before. Che, who wasn't a fan of germs, shook Tonghua off and asked, "What's going on?" Tonghua then explained everything. He and the others had planned to find a place to train after school, but the family training grounds were closed for maintenance, so they went to public training ground number 4. They were having a good practice when a group of Hyuga clan students decided they wanted the space. They refused to budge, and a fight broke out. There seemed to be a senior Hyuga clan member with them. Tonghua and his friends got beaten up badly and were driven away. Those Hyuga guys are way too arrogant. They jumped us for no reason and insulted the Uchiha, saying we're not worthy of being called the strongest clan in Konoha. You gotta help us get even. The others chimed in, calling him big brother and begging Che to step in and get revenge. Tonghua lifted his shirt and his brother Tiehua's shirt, revealing nasty red welts. The senior class did this. It still hurts. Che examined them with his 6 eyes and was shocked. He saw that the acupuncture points in Tonghua and Tiehua's bodies were blocked by lingering chakra. They might not be able to use chakra for a while. This has to be the Hyuga clan's work. It looks like a taijutsu, focusing chakra into their fingers and disrupting the opponent's chakra flow. Sneaky. Che quickly analyzed the Hyuga clan's methods. They seemed tricky. Faced with their pleas, Che didn't immediately agree. Instead, he went to Tonghua and Tiehua, told them to stay still, and injected his own chakra into their bodies, clearing out the Hyuga chakra. The two of them instantly felt the congestion disappear. Tonghua sighed, "You're like a miracle worker." Tiehua managed to choke out a thanks. Che responded, "The Hyuga clan is pretty skilled. I'll help you teach them a lesson, but not tonight. It's getting late. Go home and rest, and take me to settle things with them after school tomorrow." Hearing that Che would take revenge, Tonghua and the others were thrilled. After agreeing on a time, they took off. On the way, Tiehua asked, "You think Che can win?" Tonghua dropped the flattery. His eyes showed a cunning side unlike his brother. "My gut tells me he's stronger than those Hyuga guys. If he can't even beat them, he's not worth being our big brother." Clearly, Tonghua was just using the big brother thing as a way to get his pride back. Che had seen through Tonghua's angle. He'd called him big brother and wanted to fight the Hyuga clan. Whether he got revenge or not, at least there'd be a fight where both sides would lose something. That was Tonghua's goal, but Che had agreed anyway. He'd heard about the Hyuga clan. They were a big deal in the village, and they had senior ninja academy students among them. Defeating those Hyuga clan members would be a great way to prove his own strength. Che planned to show off his talent to the family and earn even more attention, but Che wasn't going in blind. He went to the clan leader's house. Fugaku was in his yard, so Che found him and explained what had happened with Tonghua and the others. Seeing that Fugaku didn't stop him from causing trouble with the Hyuga clan, Che asked him for information about them. Fugaku mainly told him about the Hyuga clan's two main techniques, the Byakugan and the Gentle Fist. As Che had guessed, the Gentle Fist was the taijutsu that had left Tonghua and Tiehua covered in welts. The Byakugan was what Che was really interested in. According to Fugaku, nearly every Hyuga clan member could use this eye technique, which was just as famous as the Sharingan. It gave them long-range vision and the ability to see through things. They had a nearly 360-degree field of vision that could extend for over a kilometer and see through walls. Combined with the Gentle Fist's acupuncture skills, it was a deadly combination. Che knew that tomorrow's opponent would be tough, but he was confident he could win. With that decided, Che left the patriarch's mansion. After Che left, Fugaku looked at the trees in his yard and murmured, "Is this just a kid's fight, or is the Hyuga clan behind it? The strongest clan in Konoha? Oh, do they think that title means something? Is this a smart move, Hinata?" Chapter 12 Fighting After School. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Che crammed in some extra practice after getting home and didn't crash until super late. The next day at ninja school was pretty standard. The only thing worth mentioning was that Asuma had already switched seats, and Enko Mitarashi was now in his spot. After school, Kurenai asked Che to walk home with her, but he told her to go ahead, saying he had stuff to do, so, Kurenai reluctantly dragged Enko away. Che's stuff to do involved dealing with those Hyuga clan punks he'd promised to handle yesterday. Uchiha Tonghua and his crew were already waiting by the school gates. They bowed to Che and called him big brother from across the way, which definitely got some attention. Everyone who saw the Uchiha crest on those kids' backs knew they were Uchiha's up-and-comers, and they instantly gave Che way more respect. He might look like your average cool dude, but to have those Uchiha brats, who looked like they could throw down, calling him big brother. This guy was someone you didn't mess with. Just like that, Che's rep went from school heartthrob to school tough guy. "Bro, we're gonna head to training ground 4 and wait. Those Hyuga dudes said they liked that area, so they'll probably be there today," Tonghua said. Walking up to him, Che gave a quick nod and led the group to the training grounds. Che still didn't know Konoha like the back of his hand. He usually just went between home, school, and Kurenai's place, point A to point B. Basically, he usually just practiced in that empty lot near his house. He barely even went to the family's training ground, let alone the public ones. Training ground 4 was closer to the edge of the village, though, so it was still easier to get to than the others. After about 10 minutes, they arrived. The training ground was huge, and Tonghua led Che to a corner where there were a bunch of wooden stakes sticking out of the ground. These posts were all beat up and covered in scars. You could tell they'd been used for practicing hand-to-hand combat for years. Che walked over and checked them out, noticing a fresh mark, a shallow pit about the size of a finger. He immediately thought about the injuries Copper Fire and Iron Fire got yesterday, and the info Fugaku gave him. "Gentle Fist," Che said, figuring out the name of the technique. Tonghua nodded like crazy. Yeah, Gentle Fist. That guy even said something about gossip or whatever." Just hearing Gentle Fist made Iron Fire instinctively cover his wound, like it was still throbbing. He didn't know if it was all in his head, or if the Hyuga's Gentle Fist was just that brutal. Che saw Iron Fire's reaction and sighed. "They call it Gentle Fist, but there's nothing gentle about it. This is gonna be interesting." Tonghua started whining again. "Yeah, bro, those Hyuga guys are ruthless. They don't even try to save face. And if they don't save face for us, aren't they disrespecting you, big brother?" Che waved him off. "Don't try to stir things up. Now that I'm here, I'm gonna help you guys get even. You can count on it. Seeing his game was too obvious, Tonghua just gave an awkward smile and started buttering him up again. That's what we like to hear, bro. You're the best. Iron Fire clenched his fists. I'm gonna make them pay today. Tonghua smacked Iron Fire on the head. Forget it, don't go embarrassing yourself. Iron Fire lowered his hand, looking bummed, but still wanting payback. Che gave Tonghua a sly look. The kid was slick and cunning for his age, but he still looked out for his little brother. Tonghua obviously didn't want Iron Fire to go get his butt kicked again, but dull-witted Iron Fire didn't seem to get his brother's good intentions. It wasn't long before the people they were waiting for finally showed up. It was a bunch of boys, all with those pure white eyes, walking toward them. Don't you Uchiha learn? You want another beatdown? This is Hinata territory now, get lost. One of the Hyuga kids, a round-faced kid, yelled, acting like he was all that, but Tonghua stood up straight, puffed out his chest, and shot back, you're the ones who should get lost. We've got my big brother Che here, and you guys are about to get wrecked. Tonghua's words had some power behind them, and the round-faced kid actually looked startled for a second. Then, the tallest Hyuga kid spoke up. Is that Uchiha Che who beat Hitaki Kakashi? Hearing that, Tonghua got even cockier and said proudly, that's my big brother. He acted like he'd been the one to take down Kakashi. The tall Hyuga scoffed, Hitaki Kakashi is just a freshman. How tough could he be? I'm about to be a genin, you think I'm scared of you? He glared at Che, trying to start something. Che's white hair and blue eyes made him easy to spot. Che just stared back calmly. The tall Hyuga felt like he was losing face, so he said, I'll give you a chance. If you, Uchiha Che, just suck it up and hand over the training ground, I'll let you walk away. Otherwise, don't blame us for getting rough. Che said one thing, cool as a cucumber, you're not worth it. That was all it took. Tonghua and the others started cheering Che on, and the Hyuga kids' faces went sour. Fine, you asked for it, Uchiha Che. You're done. The tall Hyuga clearly couldn't handle a kid 3 years younger acting so arrogant. He got ready to throw down, and the other Hyuga kids followed suit. Tonghua and his crew, who'd already been on the receiving end of these guys' beatdowns, looked a little freaked out and lost some of their bravado. The tall Hyuga started acting all high and mighty. The Hinata are the strongest clan in Konoha. Then he charged straight at them. Che was bored by the sloppy move, shook his head, and channeled his magic into his whole body. He jumped into the air and launched forward with a kick. The tall Hyuga quickly put up his arms to block, but the force sent him flying backwards several feet, leaving a skid mark in the dirt. Brother Makoto. The round-faced Hyuga and the others lost their nerve and swarmed around the tall Hyuga in a panic. The tall Hyuga, whose name was Hyuga Makoto, felt a sharp pain in his arms, but his ego was hurting way worse. Che might not have slapped him in the face, but he'd sure embarrassed him in front of all his underlings and the Uchiha kids. Chapter 13 The clan is divided. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hinata Ching winced in pain but shoved the others away, struggling to his feet and trying to move his still numb hands. You think you're something, huh? Just brute strength. All that's useless against the Byakugan and gentle fist. Hinata Ching spat. Che ignored the taunts, more interested in what set Hinata Ching apart from the other Hyuga. Only Hinata Ching seemed to have his forehead completely exposed. The others all wore headbands or scarves that covered theirs. If that was all, Che wouldn't think twice, but his 6 eyes saw deeper. Under those coverings were restrictions placed on the brains of the Hyuga clan, limiting their vision and power. That had to be why they so readily obeyed Sun Xiang. The restriction was probably a status symbol, a sign of subservience. Che didn't know the specifics yet. He'd ask clan head Fugaku when he got back. As a high-ranking official in Konoha and the head of a major clan, Fugaku would definitely know. While Che was puzzling over their foreheads, Hinata Ching was recovering the use of his arms. They were still a little numb and sore, but he could move them again. Hinata Ching made a hand seal. Byakugan. Veins bulged around his eyes, and his gaze sharpened. Che noticed a surge of chakra flowing from Hinata Cheng's body into his eyes, the strain causing the visible effect. Compared to the Uchiha clan's Sharingan, the Hyuga clan's Byakugan had a much lower barrier to entry. Even those Ninja Academy students who hadn't graduated yet could use it. The whole group of Hyuga activated their Byakugan, and Hinata Cheng, the leader, even adopted a gentle fist stance. Tonghua and the others, having been on the receiving end of that before, cowered behind Che. Hinata Cheng sneered. Hiding's no use. Before these Byakugan, you've got nowhere to run. Hinata Cheng crouched low, one hand forward, one back, and got ready for a gentle fist attack. Gentle fist technique. Hinata Cheng's whole aura shifted, putting Che on guard. They stood in a tense standoff for a moment before Hinata Cheng finally lunged, his movements precise and practiced. 2 trigram palms. Che chose to avoid the direct attack and sidestepped. Hinata Cheng pressed his attack. 4 palms. 8 palms. 16 palms. 32 palms. After completing the entire sequence of 32 trigram palms, Hinata Cheng was breathing hard, clearly exhausted. Che, on the other hand, looked relaxed, as if he'd just gone for a walk. Still, Che respected the Hyuga clan's gentle fist technique. A clan with that kind of legacy was bound to have something worthwhile. Che mimicked Hinata Cheng, concentrating chakra in his fingertips. Then, he moved, instantly poking a pressure point on Hinata Cheng's chest, forcing him back. Hinata Cheng was caught off guard. Why does that move look so much like gentle fist? That he didn't realize Che had just improvised the move after seeing the principles of gentle fist with his 6 eyes. Hinata Cheng, his confidence shattered, called on his comrades to rush Che, but Che weaved through them with ease, dodging every attack. If Hinata Cheng's full 32 trigram palms couldn't touch him, there was no way these guys, with their basic gentle fist skills, could. Che's agility came from the enhanced spell power, the 6 eyes, and the reflexes that they gave him. Those 2 cheats from his past life made him far stronger than anyone his age. Che didn't just dodge. He poked pressure points as he moved. He also cleverly used their clumsy attacks to make them hit each other. Hinata Cheng regrouped and charged back into the fray, but Che quickly disabled him with a pressure point strike. In that moment of paralysis, Che grabbed Hinata Cheng, spinning him around to block a strike from the round-faced Hyuga. Hinata Cheng almost choked on his rage. Do you even have eyes? The round-faced Hyuga, terrified, stammered an apology. Che wasn't having it. He grabbed Hinata Cheng by the arm and threw him at the round-faced Hyuga. There was a crash, and the 2 went down in a heap, unable to get up. Che glared at the others, and they froze, afraid to move, so Che took the initiative, taking them down with a few well-placed blows. He then piled them all up and sat on top, watching from the sidelines. Tonghua and the others winced. That was how they'd ended up last time. They were just grateful they'd recognized Che as their boss. Tonghua, ever the eager one, shouted, "Brother Che is awesome." Tiehua and the others joined in. "Big brother is awesome. Big brother is awesome." Che signaled them to quiet down, and they lowered their voices. Then, Che leaned down and asked the guys under him, "You still want this spot?" None of them dared to answer, waiting for Hinata Cheng. Hinata Cheng, buried on the second-to-last layer, managed to choke out, "No, no more." Satisfied, Che stepped off the pile and onto the ground. The human tower slowly disassembled itself. Hinata Cheng, nursing his swollen cheek, glared at Che. If looks could kill, Che would have been dead a long time ago. Che noticed the look and turned to face him. Hinata quickly averted his eyes and ran off with his crew. As they retreated, Hinata Cheng was still scolding his men. He went on about the main family and the branch family, saying the branch family should protect the main family. Che noticed the emphasis on this topic. During the fight, the round-faced Hyuga's headband had slipped, revealing a green X-shaped curse mark on his forehead. It was that curse mark that caused the restriction on their brain's vision. The Hyuga families got curse seals, branch families, main families. Do they really use all that just to keep the family going? From those few keywords, Che could roughly guess the Hyuga clan system. Che didn't think much of it. It seemed like a way to kill off the family's potential. Compared to the Hyuga clan's customs, Che was fairly satisfied with the Uchiha clan. The Uchiha had always respected strength. No matter who your parents were, if you were strong enough, you'd be recognized. That was one reason Che had gained recognition from the clan so quickly. Chapter 14 Big Brother and Sister-in-Law. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Tonghua and the others hurried up to Che, bowing respectfully. Thanks for the help, man. Che waved them off, not really caring about their thanks. He'd only jumped in because he was curious about the Hyuga clan. Their gentle fist style and Byakugan were interesting, but those guys weren't anything special. Still, he noticed a real change in their attitude toward him this time. Tiehua, the tough guy, was practically worshipping him, and even the usually shrewd Tonghua seemed genuinely grateful. The other younger guys were totally looking to him for direction, figuring there was no harm in it. Che calmly accepted their respect. Alright, well, if that's all, I'm out, Che said. Tonghua spoke up, hey, you wanna grab some dinner with us? My treat, bro. Che scratched his nose and declined. Nah, I'm eating with someone else tonight. With a wave, Che left, leaving Tonghua and the others looking at each other. After a moment, Tonghua clapped his hands together, a look of sudden understanding on his face. If he's having dinner with someone, they must be super tight. We gotta find out who it is, so we can get in good with them too. Taihua and the others agreed it made sense, all set on clinging to Che's coattails. Meanwhile, at Kurenai Yuhi's place, she was setting the table. It was loaded with fancy-looking food, definitely not something you'd whip up at home. It was takeout, an expensive takeout at that. As the only daughter of Konoha Jonin Mako Yuhi, Kurenai clearly had some savings. She sat alone, idly twirling her fingers, looking a little bored. Then, the doorbell rang. Kurenai jumped up, excited, but quickly realized she was being too obvious. She gave herself a couple of pats on the cheek to calm down, then walked to the door and opened it. Sure enough, it was Che Uchiha. Seeing Kurenai, Che walked in, asking casually, "Your dad not around?" Kurenai explained, "He's out on a mission and won't be back in Konoha this month, so he left me some money to cover food for us this month." Che nodded calmly. As a ninja, missions meant spending more time away than at home, especially for a jonin like Mako Yuhi. Che took off his shoes and looked at Kurenai. "Your face is a little red." He headed to the bathroom. His hands were dirty from the fight, and his germophobia wouldn't allow him to eat like that, except in emergencies. Kurenai stood there, touching her slightly flushed face, annoyed with herself. "Why do I always act like this when I'm alone with him?" After washing up, Che came to the table, looked at the spread, and asked, "Did you order all this?" Since coming to Konoha, Che had never eaten out. He usually bought food at the Uchiha compound and cooked for himself. After all, his parents' death had left the already poor family in a worse condition. Kurenai snapped back to attention. "Yeah, I got it from that new barbecue place, Barbecue Q. You like barbecue, right? Oh, and I got sugar too." She went into the kitchen and came back with a plate of white sugar. Che smiled, took the sugar, and said, "Thanks, I appreciate it." They sat down to eat. The barbecue place had included a small wooden grill with charcoal inside. Che picked up some meat and placed it on the grill, waiting for it to cook. The sizzling oil was a sight Che hadn't seen in a long time. While they waited, Kurenai asked, "What did you mean by having something to do after school?" Che didn't try to hide anything. "I went to have a fight." Kurenai was startled. Hearing leaving school and fighting in the same sentence made her think of some serious trouble. She quickly checked Che for injuries. To her surprise, there wasn't a scratch on him. Only smooth, pale skin. Realizing how forward she was being, she quickly pulled her hand back, lowering her head and mumbling, "Sorry." Che just smiled. "They couldn't hurt me." Seeing the meat was cooked, he gave her 2 slices. "Eat up." Che put the sugar within reach, picked up a slice of meat with his chopsticks, dipped it in the sugar, and ate it with a blissful look on his face. His 2 favorite things in life combined into one. It was almost too much for the usually calm Che to handle. Seeing him so happy, Kurenai turned her attention to the barbecue and started eating too. Whether it was the heat from the grill or something else, Kurenai's cute face stayed flushed until Che left. The next day at school, Che overheard a lot of talk about himself. "That's Che Uchiha, right? He's so hot. Don't let his pretty face fool you. He's a total badass now. Really? What happened? I heard he took his Uchiha crew and beat down a bunch of Hyuga guys yesterday. Some of them were seniors about to graduate. Wow, that's intense. The Hyuga are gonna want revenge. Nah, I heard the Hyuga went to the Uchiha looking for payback, but they got shut down. The Uchiha are protecting him, so you know he's untouchable. Damn, that's crazy. All these rumors made Che seem like someone you didn't want to mess with. Che didn't pay much attention, dismissing it as kid stuff. He figured his new rep might scare off some of the fans, but he was wrong. He had to fend off the girls with a cold look just to get through class. During a break, Kurenai and Enko went to the restroom. When Kurenai came back, she was fuming. Go deal with your people, she told Che. Tell them to stop spreading lies. Che was confused, but seeing Kurenai's reaction and Enko's knowing smirk, he figured they'd heard the rumors. He went outside and found Tonghua and the others. Tonghua grinned at him, giving him a thumbs up. Nice one, bro. Your girl is hot. Che instantly understood Kurenai's reaction. He smacked Tonghua on the head, making him cower. Don't call her that. We're just friends. Tonghua realized he'd messed up trying to be cool and quickly apologized. Che saw Tonghua got the message and was about to leave when he suddenly turned back. Also, there have been a lot of rumors lately. Keep it down. I don't like hearing that stuff. Tonghua nodded vigorously, and Che went back to class. I told them to knock it off, Che told Kurenai. Kurenai just hummed, and he couldn't tell if she was happy or not. After Che's advice and whatever methods Tonghua and the others used, the rumors about Che and Kurenai died down, at least as far as Che could hear. Chapter 15 Graduation Early. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The days at the Ninja Academy flew by. Before Che knew it, he'd been there a semester. Graduation was right around the corner. The Ninja Academy was a 5-year program, and Che's class was still in first grade. Normally, the graduation of class 42 wouldn't concern them until class 46, however, one student was about to break the mold, Kakashi Hitaki. Kakashi, are you sure you want to graduate early? Rin Noera asked, concerned. Yeah, the Hokage gave me the go-ahead, Kakashi replied with a nod. Humph, big deal, Obito Uchiha muttered jealously. The news of Kakashi's early graduation had spread like wildfire through the academy. The son of the White Fang was clearly living up to his potential. If Kakashi pulled this off, he'd become the youngest genin in Konoha's history. Standing next to Che, Kurenai Yuhi was also intrigued by Kakashi's situation. Hey, Che, do you think Kakashi can do it? He's got the skills, no problem, Che said honestly. Even when Kakashi started at the academy, he was already at the level of a typical graduate. After a semester of training, he'd surpassed that by a mile. Then why don't you take the exam early? Aren't you as strong as Kakashi? Kurenai asked. Che paused. Graduating early isn't always a good thing, he finally said. Kurenai didn't quite understand but nodded anyway. After a semester, they'd become good friends, understanding each other pretty well, so, Kurenai knew Che's insights were often spot on. Even if she didn't get them right away, Che figured graduating early might make Kakashi the youngest genin, but it came at a cost. It meant losing free time to train. Replaced by endless missions, Che had been to the mission board in Konoha and seen the kinds of tasks genin usually got stuck with: finding lost cats, walking dogs, picking up trash, and patrolling, a total waste of time. Just the thought of those missions gave Che a headache. It was like throwing his life away. And any mission, no matter how dumb, would cut into his training. Right now, Che was at the perfect age to build a solid foundation for the future. If that time got eaten up by chores, he'd have to work even harder to catch up later. So, Che planned to graduate with his class. Then, he'd try to become a Chunin ASAP, to ditch those meaningless low-level missions. Finals and graduation exams were happening at the same time. After finishing the final exam, Che's entire class was outside the graduation exam room, waiting for Kakashi. They chatted about how hard the final was, and whether Kakashi would pass the graduation exam. The consensus was that Kakashi would nail it. Because he was Kakashi, only one person seemed unhappy about all this, Obito Uchiha. Che didn't know his fellow clan member well, but he could tell Obito and Kakashi had some kind of rivalry going on. Probably just childish stuff, and the reason was pretty obvious. Rin Noara, who was standing right next to Obito, Sarutobi Asuma noticed it too. Unlike Che, who saw the situation through the eyes of someone who'd lived before, Asuma was just feeling the same pain. Asuma and Obito were on the same page here, they both had a crush. Obito on Rin, and Asuma on Kurenai Yuhi, but both girls were crushing on someone else. Rin admired Kakashi, and Kurenai admired Che. Unlike Obito, Asuma was letting go of his feelings for Kurenai. He considered himself a smart guy. After trying to get her attention for a semester, Asuma realized he didn't have a chance with Kurenai. Things had been going so well at first. They were talking every day, but then Che showed up, and everything changed. Kurenai suddenly started ignoring him. That was the last straw for Asuma. He felt sorry for Obito, but he also admired him, and was even a little jealous. Sympathy was obvious, admiration for Obito's devotion to Rin. Asuma felt ashamed that he gave up, and envy because Rin actually seemed to care about Obito. Everyone could see that. While the students were talking, the door to the exam room opened. Kakashi walked out wearing a black shirt and a green scarf. The mask was still on, but now he had a Konoha forehead protector. The forehead protector with the Konoha symbol meant he was officially a ninja. Everyone knew Kakashi had passed. The class congratulated Kakashi. Guy, the kid with the bowl cut, threw his hands up. Kakashi, you truly are my rival. You became a genin so quickly. I'll have to train even harder. Rin smiled. Congratulations on becoming a genin, Kakashi. Kurenai and Che stood together, clapping quietly. Asuma clapped too, but one person didn't congratulate Kakashi. Obito. Kakashi walked right up to Obito and looked at him, waiting for Obito to say something. Instead, Obito yelled, "I'm not congratulating you." Then he ran off. Most of the students didn't care about Obito. He was the weakest kid in class, and they just thought he was being a jerk by causing a scene like that. Only Rin Noara watched Obito run away, looking worried. After congratulating Kakashi again, Rin left, probably to go comfort Obito. Che saw it all but didn't give it much thought. He knew Rin's personality and how Obito felt about her, so Rin would definitely be able to calm Obito down. Chapter 16 Practicing Ninjutsu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Kakashi skipped a grade and dove right into his ninja career while the rest of the class looked forward to some downtime. Vacation life's way more chill than school. Ninja Academy doesn't give homework, so vacation time is all yours, but for Che, vacation and school felt pretty much the same. He wasn't planning on chilling or hanging out, he was gonna keep grinding. This world isn't that different from his old one. Che figured strength is what keeps you on your feet, no matter where you are. Plus, vacation meant more free time to train since he wasn't stuck in those pointless cultural classes. Che had plenty of training resources. Besides his dad's stuff, Fugaku and Yuhihi were a huge help, and he had those 6 eyes of chakra, which let him see exactly how ninjutsu works and copy moves. So, yeah, Che's schedule was packed. Ninjutsu, taijutsu, genjutsu, he was hitting it all. The only thing he did every day was grab dinner with Yuhihi. Other than that, he was practicing in the empty space next to his house. One day at dinner, Yuhihi suggested they train together. "Hey, Che, let's work on stuff tomorrow. I wanna start practicing that illusion my dad taught me." Che wanted to say no. Hong was way behind him, and they weren't on the same level, but Yuhihi was there, and he clapped Che on the back, grinning. "Great idea. You two should train together. Che's got a real gift for illusions, even more than you, Hong. You can learn a lot from him." Che couldn't exactly say no to that. All he could do was tell Yuhihi and Yuhihi, "Sure thing. Hong and I can train together." So, they made plans to meet up at Konoha's training ground every afternoon. The next day, Che went to Hong's place first, and then they walked over to Training Ground 3. On the way, they ran into Kakashi Hatake and Might Guy. Guy was dragging Kakashi, who was rolling his eyes, and saying, "I'm gonna help you patch things up with Obito. The best way for dudes to bond is through exercise." "That's youth, Kakashi." Kakashi grumbled, "I'm busy." Guy gave him a look. You're not even wearing your forehead protector. You obviously don't have a mission. You're probably hiding in the bookstore reading weird stuff. How busy can you be? Kakashi looked a little sheepish and finally agreed to Guy's plan. Guy pumped his fist. I already told Obito to meet us. He wants to make up too. Guy was chatting with Kakashi as Che and Hong walked past. Since they were all headed the same way, they said hi and kept going together. As they walked through the village center, Che noticed something odd with his 6 eyes. There was this huge, circular barrier, like it was holding something powerful back. Then he saw this beautiful red-haired woman standing near the barrier. Behind her were 2 mysterious people in cloaks and masks, who looked important. Facing her was a handsome, blonde-haired guy. And behind him was a group of people who seemed to be waiting for him. They were talking, and it caught Che's attention. According to what his 6 eyes were telling him, the blonde guy was strong, stronger than Yuhi Mako and Uchiha Fugaku, but what really blew Che away was the power inside the woman. It was something he'd never felt before, raw and intense. The barrier was probably there just to keep that power in check. Yuhihi Kurenai saw Che looking at the 2 of them and filled him in. That red-haired lady is Uzumaki Kushina, our village's 9-tailed Jinchuriki. And the guy she's talking to is Namikaze Minato, a super-talented jonin. He's Jiraiya's student. As the daughter of Konoha jonin Yuhi Mako, Kurenai knew more about the village than Che did. Tailed beasts, Jinchuriki, and Jiraiya, one of the Sannin of Konoha. Even Che, who'd only been in Konoha for less than a year, had heard of them. Che listened to Hong's explanation and got the gist of who these people were. They were basically Konoha VIPs. The group got closer, and Kakashi and Guy spotted Obito Uchiha waiting near the barrier. Guy waved happily, and Kakashi and Obito shook hands. Things seemed less tense between them. The 3 of them went off to work on their taijutsu, with Guy leading the charge and running all over the village, but it was pretty clear that only Guy was into it. Kakashi and Obito weren't feeling it. Che was listening to Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina's conversation. Namikaze Minato said apologetically, "Sorry, Kushina. I need to tell you. I'm going to practice that ninjutsu somewhere else today." Uzumaki Kushina put her hands on her hips, looking annoyed. Somewhere else? Training Ground 3. Namikaze Minato sensed Kushina's mood and explained quickly, "It's just, that ninjutsu isn't finished yet, and it's still dangerous. I don't want you to get hurt." Uzumaki Kushina's red hair seemed to bristle. She pointed at Minato and snapped, "If you don't want to be with me, just say so." Namikaze Minato hurried to reassure her, "That's not it at all." Just then, the people behind Namikaze Minato called out, telling him to report to the Hokage. Namikaze Minato turned to leave. "Sorry. Gotta go. See you later." Uzumaki Kushina instinctively took a step to follow, but the 2 masked AMBU behind her stopped her. Che and Hong took it all in. Kurenai seemed to feel for Kushina. Those 2 are AMBU, protecting the Jinchuriki. But she can't even go out with the person she likes. It's so sad. Kurenai clearly pitied the Jinchuriki. When she said the person she likes, she gave Che a meaningful look, like she was imagining herself in Kushina's shoes, but Che was focused on something else. "The power of the tailed beast is beyond me right now, but I could check out that new technique Minato was working on. If even a strong guy like him thinks it's dangerous, that ninjutsu must be something else." Che was intrigued. So Che told Hong, "Let's head to Training Ground 3. Chapter 17 The Whirlwind in the Whirlpool. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At Konoha's Training Ground 3, Che and Hong found a quiet spot bathed in sunlight and started their practice. Hong's initial focus was on Genjutsu, the specialty of the Yuhi family. Though not a traditional ninja clan, the Yuhi were a respected school of illusionists in Konoha. Kurenai Yuhi, representing at least the 4th generation of illusionists, had inherited her father's talent. However, she was preoccupied with her duties and hadn't dedicated enough time to Hong's training. Yuhi Hong, recognizing Che's potential, especially in Genjutsu, specifically asked Che to guide Hong in her illusion training. Che readily agreed. It was a legitimate excuse to delve into the Yuhi Hong's collection of Genjutsu techniques. "Alright, Let's start with this illusion technique. Uncle Zhenhong showed it to me, and it was in my father's collection. I've gotten the hang of it, so I can pass it on to you. Che took the lead, emphasizing that it was a joint effort, but in reality, Che was the teacher, and Hong was the student. Teaching, however, was mutually beneficial, allowing Che to deepen his understanding. Hong, an attentive student, showed no disrespect towards Che, despite him being a year younger. She fully recognized him as her genjutsu instructor. This was partly due to her personality and partly due to Che's reputation as a prodigy. Genjutsu, as the name suggests, creates illusions to confuse your opponent. The basic principle is simple: project your chakra into their visual perception. Che began his step-by-step instruction. Hong was a diligent student, but Che wasn't quite as focused. While teaching, demonstrating, and explaining techniques, he subtly observed the training ground. It was quiet, with only Che and Hong present. The vast, open space was filled with the sounds of insects and birds. Minato Namikaze should be here soon. Che had been tracking the time. Minato should have reported the mission to the Hokage. If his conversation with Kushina was genuine, he was likely on his way to Training Ground 3. Che was eager to see the mysterious, incomplete ninjutsu. Sure enough, Minato's familiar figure appeared, accompanied by another person. This man was significantly older, with long, white braided hair, a brown tunic, and a red overcoat. A mole on the left side of his nose and red markings under each eye made him easily identifiable. His chakra is even stronger than Minato's. Is that one of Konoha's legendary Sannin? Che was surprised. Minato already surpassed Fugaku and Yuhi Makoto in Che's estimation, and this man surpassed Minato. In one day, Che had witnessed two top-tier powerhouses. Even if they weren't the strongest in the world, they were close. Che knew that the Hokage was above the Sannin, and there were 5 Kage recognized worldwide. Jiraiya was likely on par with a Kage in terms of power. Kurenai noticed Che staring and said, "That's Lord Jiraiya, one of the legendary Sannin." Che nodded and resumed guiding Hong as if nothing had happened. Minato and Jiraiya had noticed the two children but paid them little attention. The large training ground easily accommodated 2 separate groups. "How's that new technique coming along?" Jiraiya asked casually, showing his concern and high expectations for his student. Minato rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. "Not much progress. I invited you here hoping you could help me break through." Jiraiya nodded. 3 years is a long time. I should have stepped in sooner. Don't worry, I'll get you on the right track. Jiraiya thumped his chest confidently, while Minato just looked embarrassed. Soon, they got down to business. Minato became serious, supporting his right wrist with his left hand, his right hand held upward in a slightly cupped gesture. Che's attention was immediately piqued. Thanks to his 6 eyes, he could observe every movement, including Minato's hands. Is he practicing? No hand seals. Could it be sealless ninjutsu? I didn't know that was possible. Minato's action stunned Che, who had never witnessed sealless ninjutsu before. A ball of chakra materialized in Minato's hand, spinning rapidly. As it continued to spin, it gradually formed a blue orb. As the technique took shape, Minato smiled with satisfaction. However, the orb began to wobble. Minato's face turned serious, and he focused intently. Jiraiya watched closely, as if facing a powerful enemy. The orb began to spin erratically, vibrating at a high frequency. Jiraiya yelled a warning, and Minato slammed his right hand into the ground. Boom. Chapter 18: Ninetales Breaking the Seal. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After that whole mess, they both plopped down on a big rock in the training grounds to chill. "Minato, I'm craving a popsicle," Jiraiya said with a wink. Minato just smiled gently and nodded, then vanished in a blink. Che, noticing Minato's aura disappear instantly, whipped his head around, surprised, and stared at Jiraiya. Only then did it sink in. Namikaze Minato had actually disappeared into thin air, and he wasn't hiding within a few hundred yards, that was for sure. Jiraiya was also looking at Che. Che quickly looked away, not wanting to get caught staring. Disappearing without a trace, instead of just booking it at top speed, meant Namikaze Minato's ninjutsu had something to do with space. Guess things are gonna be more interesting than I thought. Che mused to himself. Minato had blinked out so fast, Che's 6 eyes hadn't even had a chance to figure out the trick. To really understand this space ninjutsu, Minato would probably have to demonstrate it right in front of Che. Before Che could even process what he'd seen, Minato was back in the training grounds. He was holding a bottle of water and 2 of those double popsicles. He handed one to Jiraiya, then sat down to take a swig. Jiraiya snapped the popsicle in half and asked, "Which side do you want?" "Doesn't matter." Minato started, then suddenly his eyes widened. "The writing's the same on both sides." An idea sparked in his mind, and he jumped up. "That's it, Jiraiya-sensei. If the extraction is the same no matter which direction." Minato felt like he was onto something with his new technique. Jiraiya just shrugged. "Huh? What's up? You don't want it? Fine, I'll eat both." Minato, totally absorbed in developing his new technique, left Jiraiya in the dust and went back to the center of the training ground to keep experimenting. Refine, rotate, and maintain from 2 directions at once. This time it's gonna work. Minato raised his right hand and started gathering chakra. Maybe he was just nervous, but it took him forever this time, and the first wisps of chakra only appeared slowly in his hands. 2 streams of chakra materialized in his palm at the same time, spinning in opposite directions, and a chakra ball quickly took shape. This time it was different. This time the chakra ball stayed perfectly stable. The 2 chakras kept whirling around inside without messing with the overall balance. It's actually taking shape. The strong wind from the chakra ball whipped Minato's blonde hair around, and a huge grin spread across his face. "Let's call it." Just then, Jiraiya, having finished off his popsicle, wandered over and caught the end of Minato's naming ceremony. Nimbus popsicle-inspired spiral Jiraiya double shiki pill. "That's a mouthful. You really don't have a knack for naming things, do you?" Jiraiya said, totally unimpressed. Minato's booming voice even reached Che and Kurenai, who both grimaced. "What a terrible name." It made sense, in a weird way, but it was just awful. Che watched the blue chakra ball in Minato's hand from afar, activating his 6 eyes to analyze the ninjutsu. He sighed. "If it were up to me, I'd just call it blue spiral." After a while, Minato put away the Nimbus popsicle whatever thingy, and Che finished analyzing the long-named ninjutsu. Jiraiya told Minato, "Well, looks like you're done with your new jutsu for now. I've got some mission stuff to take care of, so I'm gonna head out for a bit. You should use this time to get some rest." "Got it." Minato, still lost in his new technique, just mumbled, "Yeah." Jiraiya left the training grounds. Minato leaned against a stone near the woods and got right back to refining his new technique. Rest was clearly out of the question. Meanwhile, Che, stoked about copying such a powerful technique, happily went back to teaching Kurenai how to use her illusion techniques. Kurenai figured Che was just making fun of Minato's awful name from earlier, and thought to herself, "Guess Che has a childish side after all." Time flew by. Che and Kurenai had just about wrapped up their training for the day, and Namake's Minato was getting the hang of his new technique. All 3 of them were about to leave the training grounds. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the woods. It was Uzumaki Kushina. Che was the first to spot Kushina hiding in the trees. Minato didn't notice until Kushina poked her head out, and then he looked up in surprise. Kushina, what are you doing here? Is that okay?" Kushina's voice was a little too loud and a little too guilty as she explained, No. The 3rd Hokage gave me special permission, said I could walk outside the barrier." "I see, that explains why the usual guard isn't here," Minato said, totally buying it. Che, who was about to leave, looked like he'd seen a ghost. "You actually believe that? Are all Konoha Jonin this gullible?" Che's 6 eyes didn't spot any ANBU guards anywhere, and the seal on Kushina's body seemed a lot looser than usual. It was obvious Kushina had snuck out on her own. This is not a good place to hang around for long. Che's guard went up, and he grabbed Kurenai's hand, pulling her along. Kurenai was taken aback for a second, feeling flustered. "More importantly, I was wrong just now. I got angry with you." Kushina bowed her head sincerely. Minato was stunned for a moment, then lowered his gaze and said, "No. I'm the one who should apologize. I didn't keep my promise to you." Chapter 19 Seal the Nine Tails. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Che felt a wave of bad luck wash over him and immediately took off with Hong. Six Eyes could sense that the Nine Tails was leaking power like crazy. Staying put in the training ground with his current strength would be a suicide mission. Seeing that Hong didn't grasp how serious things were and was rooted to the spot, Che scooped her up in a princess carry, channeled chakra into his legs, and bolted faster than he ever had before. The power of a tailed beast is insane, that the chakra pouring off the Kyuubi genuinely shocked Che. He finally understood why everyone in the village was so scared of Jinchuriki. That kind of raw, untamed power was only good for one thing, destruction. Inside Kushina's mind, the Kyuubi was thrashing against its seal, trying to mess with her head. Just undo the seals already. Free yourself from all this pain. If you won't do it, I'll take over and kill you myself. Just then, Minato, ignoring his own injuries, rushed to Kushina, focusing chakra in his right hand and slamming it into her abdomen. Kushina! Hang in there. Minato was reinforcing the four symbols seal with his own chakra. Trapped inside, the Kyuubi was secretly terrified, even comparing Minato's talent to that of the first Hokage. Sealing techniques were notoriously difficult, especially advanced, clan-specific seals like the Uzumaki clan's four-symbol seal. Realizing the Nine Tails' power was contained, Che slowed his escape, wanting to watch the show from a safe distance. Why would a ninja like you stick with this little girl? The Kyuubi snarled through Kushina. He clearly held a massive grudge against Minato for ruining his plans. Minato put his arm around Kushina. I like strong people. I like people who are stronger than me. That's why I love Kushina, and I can't stand the thought of losing her. Kushina heard every word inside her mind. She remembered the First Lady Hokage and former Ninetails Jinchuriki, Uzumaki Mito, telling her, Kushina, we might be stuck in the eye of the storm, but if we fight our way up, we're bound to find love. Her eyes hardened. She had found her love. Kushina rallied against the Kyuubi and used King Kong chains to try and reseal him. The Kyuubi was beyond furious. He hadn't expected his antics to actually strengthen Minato and Kushina's relationship, turning him into some kind of twisted matchmaker. Furious, the Ninetails formed a tailed beast ball and slammed Kushina to the ground with his chains. In the real world, the leaking chakra coated Kushina in a hideous, bloody chakra cloak, sprouting seven tails. The berserk Kushina, transformed into a seven-tailed beast, lunged and stabbed Minato. Inside her mind, Kushina screamed, Minato, get out of here. Run. Just leave me. Minato didn't budge. He looked at Kushina with unwavering resolve. I won't leave. I'll never leave. Ignoring his injury, Minato placed his hand on Kushina's abdomen to strengthen the seal, wrapping her in a tight hug and pulling himself into her mind. I can feel it. Kushina always carries me in her heart. Inside her mind, Minato leaped high, holding aloft the jutsu he had developed to protect Kushina. Kushina seized the moment, reinforcing the King Kong chains and pinning the Kyuubi. The Kyuubi had no choice but to fire the tailed beast ball straight at Minato's spiraling chakra pills. I'm not handing Kushina over to you. The two spheres of massive chakra collided, unleashing a shockwave of unbelievable force. The explosion knocked Minato unconscious. When he came to, the first thing he saw was the ceiling of a hospital room. Kushina, looking anxious, was sitting by his bedside. Minato sat up, dazed. Kushina threw her arms around him, holding him tight. Minato winced in pain, but he didn't mind. Jiraiya and Tsunade stood by the bed, relieved, watching the young couple. After they had a moment, Minato, still in bed, thanked Jiraiya and Tsunade. Thank you, Sensei, and Tsunade-sama, for saving me. Jiraiya and Tsunade waved it off. Those two kids found you at the training ground. If you want to thank anyone, thank them, Jiraiya said with a grin. Tsunade added, I didn't heal your injury. I just came up with the treatment plan. Shizune was the one who operated. Minato still expressed his gratitude, already picturing the two children Jiraiya had mentioned. One's a boy with white hair and blue eyes, the other's a girl with black hair and red eyes. I need to thank them later, he reminded himself. A week later, at Yuhi's house, Che and Hong were getting ready for dinner when the doorbell rang. Che's 6 eyes instantly recognized the visitor, Minato Namikaze. Che and Hong went to the door together and opened it. Minato, dressed in casual workout gear, seemed to have recovered. He smiled and greeted them. Hey, thanks to you two for getting me to the hospital from the training ground. I really appreciate it. Chapter 20 Challenger. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's Konoha, year 43. After class, Che was focused on refining his chakra at his desk. Nearby, Hong and Enko were gossiping about the latest buzz. Word is, Kakashi got promoted to Chunin, Enko said, leaning in like she had some hot intel. Hong looked surprised. Really? Yeah, that's what my dad told me, Enko confirmed, backing up her claim. So, Kakashi's the youngest Chunin in Konoha now, Kurenai remarked, glancing over at Che who was still practicing. Che never paid attention to that kind of stuff, but everyone in Konoha already considered Kakashi and Che the two top geniuses. Hong was worried about how Che might be taking it. Even with his eyes closed, Che could still hear everything. He knew about Kakashi's promotion. Sensing Kurenai's gaze, Che opened his eyes, looked at her, and said, Kakashi becoming a Chunin just means he's leveled up. It doesn't change anything for me. If the villagers want to compare us, that's their problem. Hong nodded, impressed by Che's indifference to fame. Just then, Copperfire Uchiha walked into the classroom, bringing news of his own. Che, Kakashi Hitaki just asked me to tell you something at the gate. He wants a rematch. Copperfire's voice carried, so the whole class heard him. The noisy classroom suddenly went silent. Why does Kakashi want to fight Che again? Yeah, and Copperfire is Che's little brother. He's gotta be telling the truth. The students immediately erupted in excited chatter, wondering if Che would accept the challenge and who would win. Copperfire walked up to Che, waiting for his answer. With everyone watching, Che simply said, okay. Copperfire gave him a thumbs up. Knew you wouldn't back down, bro. He ran back out, ready to spread the word. Hong, looking concerned, asked, you sure you can win? Che replied, we'll win. His tone was calm, like it was a foregone conclusion. Hong felt reassured, her anxiety fading. Lin Noera clasped her hands together, silently praying, Kakashi, you've got this. But even as she said it, she felt uncertain. Since Kakashi graduated, he and Lin hadn't seen each other much, so she didn't know how strong he was now. And she didn't really understand what it meant to be a Chunin. She had seen Che's strength firsthand. After Kakashi left, Che was the undisputed top student, way ahead of everyone else, so, Lin wasn't sure how a fight between Kakashi and Che would go. Seeing Lin so worried about Kakashi, Obito frowned and muttered, so what if he loses? Kakashi already lost once. But deep down, Obito didn't want Kakashi to lose again. If Kakashi lost to Che twice, it would prove he wasn't as good as everyone thought, and Obito had always seen Kakashi as someone to beat. Wouldn't that mean Obito's efforts were pointless? It wasn't just Obito. Might Guy felt the same way. Guy had always believed that Kakashi was the one he had to surpass, so he constantly challenged him to fights. So far, Guy's record was 0 wins, 16 losses, and 0 draws, a total disaster, but Guy never gave up, because he knew Kakashi was a real prodigy. He secretly hoped Kakashi wouldn't lose. The fight was set to take place at the school. After classes ended, Che arrived at the agreed-upon location, the same training grounds as before. Hong was right behind him, followed by a crowd of onlookers. Everyone was used to seeing Che and Hong together. The group arrived at the training grounds, where Kakashi was already waiting. He was wearing a black short-sleeved outfit. His neck and the lower half of his face were hidden behind his black mask, but you could still tell he was lean and handsome. The metal arm guards and the Konoha headband showed that he was a skilled ninja, someone you didn't want to mess with. Kakashi had definitely gotten even better looking this year. His arrival made a lot of the girls in the Ninja Academy cheer. Lin gazed at Kakashi with longing. Seeing this, Obito decided he'd been wasting his time worrying about Kakashi. Kakashi, you better lose this time. Che nodded to Hong and walked onto the training grounds alone. Hong could only watch him go, silently wishing him luck. Didn't expect you to agree so quickly. I happen to be free today, Kakashi said. As a Chunin, Kakashi probably didn't have as much free time as Che, so, Che accepting the challenge was good for Kakashi. Che smiled slightly. Of course. But there's one thing you need to understand. Kakashi raised his eyebrows. A strand of white hair poked out from under his headband, swaying in the breeze. Che held up a finger. You're the challenger. His words rang out, Copper Fire and the others cheered. That's my bro. Hong thought Che looked incredibly hot, standing there so confidently and saying those words to Kakashi. She was so distracted she didn't even hear Anko calling her name. Lin was still focused on Kakashi, rooting for him. Obito and Guy felt weird. If Kakashi was the challenger, then they were challenging the challenger. Just as everyone was buzzing about what Che said, Kakashi replied. You're right. I'm the challenger. Kakashi's calm acceptance impressed Che. Looks like you've come a long way this year, Che said, surprised. The corners of Kakashi's mouth tilted up slightly behind the mask. You'll find out soon enough.